evening. Welcome everyone to the February 12th meeting of the Board of Education of the Tuxedo Community School District. Call the meeting to order. If we could rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always pause for
Thank you.
grace.
Will the clerk call
I
roll?
always pause like someone's going to say.
Daniel Castro.
Okay.
Here.
Always got that.
Gary Hebner.
Here.
Kimberly Breeden. Here. William Clark.
Here.
Heather Kidda. Chris Scanlon.
Here.
Great. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'd like to invite Brian up to here. What exactly is Brian's title? School business official, to give us some preliminary budget projections. Brian, you need the screen?
We're going to step down. if
So
that's
we're
okay.
all gonna step down so we can watch it.
Yeah, can I make a comment first before everything? A lot of people were complaining that nobody could hear anything, so maybe every time we make a comment, grab your mic and really talk into it. And so, Brian, when you're there, can you kind of hold the mic and talk into it? And we'll see if that works.
Excellent.
Okay.
Dante, will this be on the screen through your picture of it? Will this be on the screen?
This will be on the live right now, correct?
Okay, but your picture of this or this actual?
Both. I got the projector going and I got the camera on this one.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, yes. Maybe we should shut the light.
It's fine, yep. Okay. Good evening, board. How's the audio? You hear? Good. Okay, so here we have 25-26 budget presentation. This is going to be the first presentation from me, the first of many over the next couple of months, and probably the most brief. Today I'm going to discuss upcoming key dates, the tax cap calculation, and a very, very early look at revenue for next school year. And I think revenue is a great place to start because that kind of sets the goalpost for how much you can spend next year. It's not how much you need to spend and how much you can spend next year. '25-26. So here's some key dates. Anything that I've highlighted in yellow, that's going to be a presentation from me to the board and the community, starting with the next one being March 19th. This is going to be the first detailed review of the expenditure side of the budget that we see. Each of these subsequent presentations after that is going to be the same budget, but it's going to be tweaked, enhanced, improved, until we get to the point on the 24th, where the board is adopting a proposed budget. Then you have budget hearing, another presentation from me on May 7th. And finally, the budget vote on May 20th. We strongly encourage all community members to come out and exercise your right to vote. And the other date to make a point of is April 1st. This is when the state budget is due, legislative budget. Now, the last 2 years, it was not filed on time. Last year, it was filed on April 20th, 2024, so about 3 weeks late. So with that said, it's possible the board could be adopting a budget without really knowing exactly what our state aid will be the following year. And that's a reality all districts are dealing with. Okay, so here we have the tax cap calculation. The tax cap was signed into law in 2011 with the goal of limiting the annual growth of property taxes throughout the state. By March 1st of each year, myself and the district, and every district in the state needs to file this calculation with state education. Now, it's essentially saying what's the maximum amount we can raise our tax levy without requiring a supermajority or a 60% yes vote. Whether or not the community and the board wants to raise taxes to that number is a completely different conversation. This is just, here's the calculation, this is the tax levy limit, and this is what it looks like. Unlike revenue, which we're going to look at in a moment, these numbers are pretty much all locked in at this point in the year. So I'm not going to go line by line, but I'll touch on some of the key items here. Starting with the first line, which is simply last year's tax levy. From there, we have the tax-based growth factor, which is based on overall growth of the locality. As you can see, last year it was flat. This year we are seeing growth as New York State determines it. So that's a healthy sign for the district. Then as we get lower in the calculation, you see the allowable levy growth factor. Every year, this is either lower of 2% or CPI. As you can see, it's 2% this year, and it's been 2% for quite a while. And then, as you keep going to the exclusions, we have the capital tax levy, which is really the only exclusion we're recognizing at this point. That's that number, which is $243,643. And that is comprised of money that we're going to use on capital expenditures from next year's budget, meaning capital tax exclusion from the local BOCES, any bond payments that we're going to recognize next year, and any small projects that we're going to do next year funded out of this budget. So at the bottom, that gives us a tax levy limit of $13,072,718. If we were to tax to the cap, that would yield an increase of $376,269, or put another way, a 3% increase year over year. Are there any questions on that slide?
Just keep the bottom right number, I just can't see it. It's 3.00.
3.0, yep. Flat, yep. Okay, so here we have the revenue. In the left column, we're looking at the adopted budget from 24-25, and then in the right column, we have the preliminary estimate of 25-26. I'm stressing the word preliminary here. And for us, this year, and like every year, there's two major numbers. There's the tax levy, which we know that's the top number you're seeing right there, the 13 million. And the bottom number, which is state aid. Those are what they're really driving our revenue at this point in time. So you'll see we have an increase of 172,257. Again, this is not necessarily what our budget's going to be. This is just early on. This is first look at revenue, and this is potentially what we could be spending when we build our expenditure side of the budget. And I think at this point, the revenue is really functioning as our constraint as we build this budget. Any questions on that?
You've got us using $500,000 in fund balance again, which doesn't exist.
Yeah. So due to a number of inefficiencies that we have been able to eliminate this year, I do believe we will have fund balance at the end of the year. But again, that number, I would say we have every expectation for it to either not be there or be eliminated. I know the leadership and board is really committed to making sure this budget is sustainable, not just for the short term, but long term. So over the next couple of months, we'll be working to identify any areas where we increase these efficiencies, and thereby reducing the fiscal demands.
So the steps we've taken this year means that there will be some fund balance.
Between expenses that have been eliminated and we're having a healthy revenue year, those two things combined, yes. Okay, and here's just the mission statement taken right off of our website. It's simply just a reminder of our priorities as we build this budget, whether it be student achievement or student security. Whenever we're making these budgetary decisions, we just want to reinforce that it's the students who we're thinking about first and foremost. And that's it for me. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Sorry, one more time. Yeah, we have a number of savings that we certainly can put together a list of that. On hand? No, I do not.
And I haven't been through my it's not posted.
Hey, if we could move back into it. First, I want to thank Brian for an excellent presentation. And I know that in my conversations with him and with the rest of the board, I know that there's a goal here for us to put together a budget that doesn't use any fund balance and that we can rebuild our savings over time. I think if we don't put together a budget that doesn't use fund balance, then what did you say, Brian? We're not really taking it seriously? Yeah, and I think I think it's important that we do that. So thank you very much for that.
We had asked in advance meeting for the savings to be documented, and it was not included there, and that was asked in advance of this meeting.
Yeah, I talked about that with Brian too, but you know, he's in the midst of putting together all of these budget numbers. And if you look at the minutes that we approved from the last meeting, it gives a pretty good state of exactly the money that we've saved. I also was asked for a list, which I emailed over to Ms. Breland. I think it was from her, showing the people and the salaries that were eliminated, and I'm not sure that I want to get into in public the names of the people and the salaries that were eliminated, but I could forward it over to you also if you like. Once you have it, I guess you could do with it as you please.
The names and questions of the people don't need to be announced in public, but I believe that departments and knowing what we're saving specifically from what department, and since certain jobs have been eliminated, we have needed to replace those jobs with other people doing things. So we need to know what we are saving from eliminating specific jobs, and then what it is costing us to replicate what is needed for those jobs. And I also requested, which did not come to me, a request of a detailed list of the job responsibilities of, like, say, the HR department, and I want to know if we are fulfilling what an HR department actually does and what's happening there, or are we fulfilling what the cook does and what is actually there, and are we compliant with everything? And what are the pros and cons of losing a department or keeping a department?
Brian, you don't happen to have a preliminary projection of, you know, what these changes that we've made are going to equate to in fund balance at the end of the year, do you? Don't guess if you don't. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll work on it. At this point in the meeting, we're come to the place where we ask for public comment. If anyone in the audience would like to address the board, we're happy to hear from anything that you'd like to tell us. See a lot of the brass from the PTO is here. Okay.
There was a request from the PTO to have a guidance counselor in the lower school, and I thought at the last meeting that we discussed that the guidance counselor who is here in the upper school is also the guidance counselor in the lower school. Am I incorrect or correct in that?
No, you're correct. Mrs. Oliver does see students in the elementary school.
So why do parents believe that they don't have a guidance counselor in the lower school?
I can't answer as to why they're requesting that or what they believe. They do have Mrs. Oliver there. I would assume they'd like a full-time person in that building.
I remember.
That's why they're asking for that.
I remember back when we had Mrs. V in the elementary school, and she was terrific. At some point, we cut that position, and she went, and she's now working at Greenwood Lake. I would love to find a way to bring her back. I really would. You know,
So I looked
someone in
up
that
online
position.
to find out what guidance counselors do and how many students they handle at a time. And apparently, it's 250 students to one guidance counselor. And we have 177 students in our district. And when we're talking about budget and saving, I just wonder how our one guidance counselor cannot handle 177 students when the normal guidance counselor handles 250.
Yeah,
I don't think
remember
anybody said that. I'm sorry.
saying that she can't
Couldn't
handle it.
handle it.
Oh,
said
okay.
that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that I think it was amazing when we did have
Okay.
a counselor in the elementary school. And if we're gonna find a place, you know, where we wanna spend, as opposed to, you know, consultants and HR people, I'd really rather spend it on the emotional health of the kids.
Well, I would rather spend it in ELA and math and get everybody up to score, but okay.
We're up to the superintendent's report then?
You have to, no, we got
Oh, did I miss one?
a public comment on the budget,
Oh,
technically.
oh, so that was public comment on the budget.
No, that was, now we need public. 3-2. On the budget. We did that.
Ah, okay. All right. 3.2. Would anyone like to have public comment on the budget so far? Okay, great. Then we're up to the administrators report.
Okay, good evening. I just want to highlight some areas that GGM has been participating in the Pick a Reading Partner program from February 3rd to the 13th, and we wanted to thank everyone who gave up their time to come read with the children. I know it's certainly rewarding when you go in there and see the little faces and sit in the group, and they certainly appreciate it as well. This Friday, on the 14th, is Valentine's Day. George Grant Mason's Spirit Day is occurring. We ask that everybody wear a red, pink, or white if you're in the building. Winter recess will be in effect from February 17th to the 21st, and school will not be open during that time. I am very happy to announce that GGM Saturday basketball program will be returning to Tuxedo. The program is slated to run from March 8th through May 10th. The Saturday basketball will be similar to how it has operated in the past and programmed for grades 3 to 6. The schedule will be coming out shortly, and it will detail the specific grade levels and the times for those respective grade levels. We're very fortunate and thankful to have volunteers participating in the Saturday basketball and running it. Mr. Chris Scanlon is one of them, Mr. Matt Takeuchi, Mr. Marsh, and Mr. Sandek will be the volunteers running it. So Tuxedo thanks these volunteers once again for reviving a welcomed past tradition. Also soon to start is an after-school program for grades 1 to 5 in the elementary school, beginning on March 10th and running through May 23rd. The district will be initiating an elementary intramural program for grades 1 to 5, coupled with a reading and math club program after school from 3 to 4 o'clock. So the grades will alternate. Grades 1 to 3 will go to 1, either reading and math on, say, a Monday, Wednesday, and 4 or 5 grades would go on Tuesday, Thursday. And then they would alternate and go to the intramural program on the other days. But the sign-up sheets will go out shortly. Ms. Park has those, and we look forward to that starting. Also, as we are working on the scheduling for the 2025-26 school year, I'm pleased to announce that we anticipate offering a seal of biliteracy to our higher level Spanish 4 learners. Ms. Castellano is spearheading the effort with the support of Mr. Kamar and Mrs. Oliva. So we will be issuing additional information to those families who qualify for this opportunity. It's wonderful to be able to have this seal of biliteracy on a student's transcript as they move on. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Mrs. Bissard for orchestrating a visit from Dr. Chung from the Alpha and Omega Dental for recently visiting our kindergarten through 2nd grade students, teaching them and sharing tips on how to maintain healthy habits. It's very important, and she's been coming here for many years, and we thank her. Unfortunately, the high school dance that was scheduled for this Friday has been canceled, and instead a game night will be held on Thursday, February 22nd from 3 to 5 o'clock in the high school cafeteria. There will be a gym night on March 5th. These are just some upcoming March events. March 6th, we have pre-K to 12th grade parent-teacher conferences that will be a half day for students. March 12th, we'll also hold a kindergarten orientation at 1:45 in the GGM multipurpose room. We'll have a superintendent's conference day on March 18th. And just looking forward in April also the PTO will be putting the CPR. We thank them for bringing in CPR to the high school. Mrs. Mitchell, I think it's March 26th, if I'm not mistaken. So we thank you for that, bringing that in. In April, there will be a middle school dance, April 5th. And also in March, there will be a 5th grade family night for middle school and high school program review for families. Mr. Kmar is orchestrating that. The final details are in the works, and the dates and times will be announced. It'll be a good transition meeting and planning session. And in April, we plan to hold an after-school movie event. So again, those dates will be coming out shortly. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Terrific. I want to thank you very much on that, and I especially want to thank our newer board members, Mr. Clark, Mrs. Takeuchi, and Mr. Scanlon for really pushing hard on getting those clubs done, along with the work of the administration and Mrs. Park and Mr. Kmar. I'm very excited to see the activities about to happen. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that the CPR class that's going to come off is actually free of charge, and it's something that's sponsored by the county, and you know, they're always looking for for ways to do that and people to reach out to, and thanks Mr. Newhouse and the legislature. Next one is the discussion on board policies.
Those are enclosed from everybody I gave them.
So let's take a look at those. All right, so, yeah, there is a board policy that says that the official spokesperson, the superintendent, or designee will issue all releases concerning the district. Okay? And then there is a policy which is the duties of the president, and the president acts as the spokesperson for the board in all forms of communication. I was contacted by the newspaper for a comment which I gave, and some of the board members brought up this conflict in who exactly the spokesperson for the board should be. So I would like to make a motion that either one, or the actual board policy on media and municipal governments, say as the official spokespeople, the superintendent, the president, or designee will issue all news releases concerning the district. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think there needs to be a clarity of the roles and responsibilities. I think as the president of the board, it being a spokesperson should be for the board and the district, but as the board's collective position. So maybe there should be restrictions to the president of the board, as maybe the president should discuss it with the board members and find out if what they are saying is in alignment with the whole board. I believe that maybe after that is designed, we should go to the PR people that we have hired and make sure they're in alignment with it. And then we should discuss it with our attorney and make sure it's aligned with our attorney.
Well, just to put one section of that at rest, I did run it past our attorney first. I texted it to him, and he thought it was great. So,
But the rest of the board was blindsided, Dan. Maybe not everybody, but this side of the table was.
do we have any other comments from anyone else? Do we want to repair this dichotomy in these two lines? Leave it as is?
I don't see a conflict. I would,
There's two things, that are two different things, Gary. There is a conflict between these two policies.
can you point out the conflict? I don't see a conflict.
The board president is supposed to represent the board as a whole, but policy 3110 restricts public communication to the superintendent or their designee when it comes to the district-related information. This leaves room for confusion about who is authorized to speak on behalf of the board in different contexts. The lack of clarity could potentially lead to a situation where the president may inadvertently or intentionally make statements that are not aligned with the board's official position or might not be in the best interest of the district.
I think that everyone understood that they were voting for a person to be the spokesperson of the board when they voted for the president, as these duties were outlined very clearly. Nomination and election of board officers and duties. Do we want to correct, do we want to work on this? Leave it as is?
I still don't see a conflict. I would leave it as is. I'm not aware of it ever being a problem. I don't see a conflict. I think both policies, 1320 and 3110, are pretty clear, and absent a future problem, I don't think we need to address it. If somebody wants to make a motion otherwise, obviously I can be convinced otherwise, but I don't see the need to be discussing it.
One says the superintendent is to make all public comments, the other says the board president or the superintendent. So that is a conflict.
Sorry, I didn't even cut you off.
That's all. It's very clear, though.
I disagree. 1320 says president represents the board. A different policy document, 3110, says superintendent is in charge of the district. Two different people, two different bodies. Two people sitting here, one's the district, one's the board. I voted for one of them. That's the person who represents the board per the policy. I hired a superintendent who represents the district. I think the roles are quite clear.
Again, this statement says all statements of the board will be released through the office of the superintendent or the district clerk. So that needs to be clarified. If that is not going to be the case, then we can clarify this one and get rid of the other. It needs to be clarified because they're two conflicting things. And there was an assumption and a recommendation that the board president and vice president were going to be transparent and let the rest of the board know about different things. And again, many people at this table were not made aware and were only made aware of this statement that regards the district that's publicly put out there for everyone to see once they saw it in the paper.
It's the same exact statement that's in your minutes from the last meeting that we talked about. It's nothing that should have been a surprise to anyone.
You named the current superintendent, Mr. White, as the former administration in that article, for one thing, Dan.
Well, I've named him as the previous.
Yeah,
As
that's
the previous
that's
administration.
not accurate.
And the other thing is that people are now questioning why the whole board would vote to pass the budget last year when there seems to be this big cloud over us. So actually, I'm going to recommend that we do a review of the budget from last year so that people in the community can understand why we did all vote 100% across the board to pass the budget last year.
You know, I've heard this question before, and I have to tell you, I think it's a little silly, in that if we're going to hire a cook for $70,000 a year, and I vote no, and the rest of the board votes that they're going to hire this cook for $70,000 a year, and if we vote to hire an HR person for $120 some odd thousand a year in full benefits, and I vote no at that point, and the rest of the board decides that they're going to do this, then when the budget comes, am I supposed to vote not to pay them? Of course I need to vote for the budget. We put the budget together here based on the decisions that we've made for the whole year. And as much as me and many times Gary and Bill, who were on the board last year, voted no on these things, when the budget comes, it's our job as board members to support the budget and to have the people paid that we hired, no matter how ridiculous we thought the hires were. Now that we are running this school district this year, we're trying to remove some of the ridiculous things that were put in the budget last year so that when we get to writing this year's budget, we won't have to take $500,000 out of the savings account in order to pay these people. These questions aggravate the hell out of me, I tell you. Why did we vote for it? Should we vote to not pay them? Do you want to change this or no?
There's no motion on the floor. I think there's no, either a motion has to be made or we move on to 5.2.
All right,
I
let's
make a
move on to
motion to
5.2.
change it.
You're not listening. She's making a motion.
She's making a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
What's the motion?
What, I don't know what it is.
To change the policy.
To what?
Well, first of all, we're supposed to have a discussion about the policy, and we have a policy committee, which I requested the committee to get together so that we could review this and maybe come up with a plan of how to approach it and maybe reword the policy. But no committee member on the policy committee answered any of my emails.
So read your proposal.
I don't know now because I'm so flustered.
Okay, we can come back to it if you want.
Okay, here. The proposal for 1320 is the section that speaks about the spokesperson. For the president of the board, it should say, acts as the spokesperson for the board's official positions and decisions in all forms of communication. This includes statement, oh no, that's, this includes statements regarding actions taken by the board or the board's collective stance on matters. Please note, the president's role as a spokesperson is limited to board-level decisions, such as official votes, resolutions, or actions taken by the board. For all day-to-day district operations, the superintendent remains the primary spokesperson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion?
I would not be opposed to having a policy committee look this over. I think we should all be happy with what we do, and, or at least feel that we've been heard. I would not be opposed to pushing this to another meeting, having the policy committee look at it, and come back with something that we're more aligned on.
Is that a motion to table?
I guess, yes, that's a motion to table.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Vote on a motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? table passes.
Bonnie, try to talk into the microphone because nobody can hear on the videos.
I've never been told I can't be heard, but I will try that, yes.
Okay, 5.2, adding a special budget presentation meeting to the Board of Ed calendar in the 2024-2025 school year. May I have a motion?
Do we have a date, though?
There are dates of April 7th to the 10th on that.
Yes,
Right
we
on
will.
the bottom here, you'll see, to add a special meeting early April for another budget presentation, if desired, prior to the April budget adoption meeting. So the prospective dates are anywhere from April 7th to the 10th. Could even do it early evening if that was convenient for people. If you want to look, I have this, if anybody needs to see.
There's a
Does
PTO
everybody
meeting
have
on
that?
April
I'll
9th.
just look at my calendar.
Maybe we could do it in conjunction with that, since we always overlap.
It would be just a presentation. Wouldn't be that long. April 9th.
I'm fine on April 9th.
Just keeping it the normal Wednesday. We did it at 7, we might be done at 7:30, and the PTO meeting would not interfere or conflict.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we add a budget presentation meeting for 7 o'clock, April 9th, which is a Wednesday, in this auditorium.
Second. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6.1, approval of spring coaches and clubs for the 2024-2025 school year.
So move.
Second.
In our list here, we've got modified basketball, baseball, JV baseball, JV softball, modified softball, a volunteer coach and a volunteer scorekeeper, a elementary intramurals club, a math reading club, another math reading club, another math reading club, and a reading club elementary intramurals club. Basically covering every day of the week with, pretty much any child in the elementary school is going to have an opportunity to participate with all the grades. And I've had a motion and a second. If there's any discussion,
Yeah, quick discussion. When does that program run? It starts this week, and then how long does it run? The math reading club.
That is going to run to, begin March 10th. Excuse me.
Okay, we were just
March
voting on
10th, then it'll run to May 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Mr. K. Martin, for assisting, pushing the envelope.
6.2, approval of a stipend position for production technician. How is our school play proceeding? Are we rehearsing, or we've picked something?
Worked very hard, fifth graders to help with participation during your daily.
For the Addams Family production.
I got to throw this out. I remember my son John in the elementary school playing one of the hoods when we did Guys and Dolls, and it's still my favorite picture of him up here with that ridiculous bow tie on it. Any other discussion on that?
I think I make a motion to pass 6.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I just wanted to ask,
Go ahead, ask it. Is this supposed to?
is production technician specifically for the musical production,
It encompasses part of that, but it's other events as well.
other events as well? Can you elaborate?
So what it entails is going to be generally sound and light at an event. So that will help us if we're setting up something here or outside. It's different than technical.
Thank you, that's great to hear, because Mr. Chan does a great job with those things, so glad to have you doing that again.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
We voted.
Aye.
Well, I didn't hear anything from down that end, so.
Aye.
Kimberly's and the ladies. I'm an aye, and Kimberly's
Oh, okay.
not here.
Okay, 6.3, approval of a teacher mentor. This
So-
is in the contract.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
6.4, approval of volunteers for the school year, for the GGM basketball, Saturday basketball.
So moved?
So we've got 2 members of the board are on this list.
No, it's Matt.
Oh, that's Matt Takeuchi. Oh, okay. It's folded over, all right. So we've got 1 member of the board that's on here. Any discussion?
Just a thank you for the volunteers.
I appreciate their help. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
1 abstention. Mr. Scanlon?
You don't think you can do a good job?
Business officer reports. Anyone want to discuss anything in particular?
No.
Hearing none. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve all of them?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7.2, CSE, CPSE recommendations. Anything to discuss?
It's only the one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
only one. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 7.3, approval of the revised Board of Education meeting calendar. What did we change?
This is reflective of the accurate date. Inadvertently, last meeting, the old calendar was put in. That's why you were correcting the dates, Gary,
Yeah.
on that.
Because it was I don't know,
The budget vote was not.
it was on a
that.
Wednesday or something,
Right.
yeah, but I
So that
checked.
was corrected,
Those dates all seem to be correct to me. I went over them all.
yes.
So I moved that corrected calendar.
Is there a second?
Discussion. Second.
And you want to discuss that one?
Yeah, just, this is the full calendar for next year.
Oh, that's the next item.
Oh, next item, I'm sorry, yep.
That's the next.
Negative.
The board calendar.
Yep, I retract. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 6.5 is the approval of an RFP authorization.
No,
Nope.
Oh, I missed one?
full school calendar.
Full school calendar,
Full school,
7.4,
There you go.
for the 25-26 school year. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Question. So we'll have fewer snow days next year? Is that,
Bonnie, I can't hear you.
I can hear her.
Yeah,
we'll have fewer snow days next year?
There'll be 3 snow days built in. There's always remote instruction, too, that can be utilized if need be.
Is that a change from this year?
Is there 5 in this year?
5 in this year, right.
Why the change?
You never know, you want to build in more, less. You can always take back days if you need to off the calendar. It's listed on the bottom of what days you could take back, should you need to.
so do we want to approve it as is with 3, or Bonnie, do you want to add snow days?
No, I know sometimes it has to do with how the holidays fall, like,
Right.
Yeah.
the winter holiday, for example, whether or not, like this year, we came back earlier than some districts, and that probably allowed us to have more snow days built into our schedule. But, just given what's happening with the snow this week,
Yeah.
it may be nothing that we can fix, but I was just wanting to ask it next year.
And I would note, like, for example, next year, Christmas and New Year's fall on Thursdays, so it's actually like 10 days off of school. So
Correct.
that's why.
Correct, there's like 1 day in that second week to bring people back, and no districts are doing that.
So maybe it's not a great time to ask for, speaking of coming back, it was brought up, I thought it was a very good idea, that maybe coming back after Labor Day, the first day after Labor Day, might not be the most convenient for everyone. Having a little bit of flex time to sort of clean up after family members and come back from vacation after Labor Day and start, I guess, on the 2nd, or start on the 3rd as opposed to the 2nd. Might sort of stymie or,
Excuse me. I'd have to rework the calendar.
Yeah, where do you pull that?
yeah, all
I'd have to
right, yeah.
rework the whole calendar if you wanted to entertain it.
Maybe next year.
Maybe the following
You
year.
say maybe next year, maybe the following year. We'll get out the protractor and the scalpel and,
Still better than Friday, January 2nd.
understood. Okay.
On this calendar, it looks like winter recess is the 23rd through the 31st, and then the 1st and 2nd. But on the actual calendar with the circle, the 22nd is also circled, so I just want a clarification on that.
Sorry, you're looking at December?
December, yeah. So it says
Correct.
Okay.
So I have a question. Do we, like, just follow basically other districts, like, other Orange County districts and maybe Suffern?
We discuss at our superintendent's meetings with Orange Ulster BOCES. Typically, we coordinate with the Orange Ulster BOCES calendar because our children attend the CTEC programs there. We don't always coordinate, we don't coordinate with the Rockland. It's the Orange Ulster.
It's just that I know so many families that have students in private schools around us or extended family members that are in private schools, and it seems like the holidays always fall on, like, the spring break is not the same week as my best friend's spring break, and then we can't all do spring break together, or it doesn't align correctly with Tuxedo Park School exactly, so it struggles.
Unfortunately, even the Orange Ulster districts, we don't all strictly align. For example, some religious holidays are not celebrated by all districts, while others do celebrate them. So that affects your calendar throughout the year and the number of days. You need 180 days, according to New York State, for state aid, 180 instruction days. Our teachers, in their contract, are required to be here 184 days.
Okay, thank you.
Don't we need to also align with BOCES for CTEC?
Yes, that's, yes.
And,
Yeah.
Rockland needs to align with Rockland BOCES for CTEC.
Right, right. So the CTEC is a big factor.
Right, I got it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, approval of the RFP authorization. Okay, motion to approve RFP authorization for general counsel.
I have a motion to table.
We,
What'd you say?
motion to table before we.
I
It's not-
second.
there's no motion yet. It's out of
Yeah,
order.
It's out of order.
That's-
First,
that's
we've
out
got
of
a
order.
Motion and second. So I looked back, and the last time we did an RFP for our attorney was 4 years ago. And from what I've seen, it's best practice to do it every 4 years. So I, looked at what some other districts were doing and submitted a draft RFP for our attorney to our business department to look at. Brian, did you make any edits or changes, or?
No, we just, no.
It's
We
just-
reviewed it for any typos.
It's
or-
pretty much standard stuff. So can I have a motion to do an RFP for the school attorney?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
I would request that we table this because I think we have a lot on our plate right now.
Okay, so there is a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of tabling this?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed?
Opposed.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay. So the motion to table fails. Is there any further discussion on the motion to do the RFP?
Yeah, can you give some examples of where it says it's best practices to every 4 years do an RFP?
I remember reading it in our first came over.
Okay.
I
You said
remember
you
our
talked to
attorney
other
saying that,
districts or
and
looked at
also
other
in the board
districts,
training.
nothing?
Yeah, the board
The module.
training, yeah. That's what I heard.
Okay.
When we request an RFP, do all the board members receive the RFPs that come in?
I guess we would have a review committee, and then we'd have to vote if we wanted to make a new attorney.
So there'd be a review committee, but all the board members don't get to see the RFPs that come in?
Absolutely, they're public documents.
Well, then I request to see all the RFPs for the lawyers that we hired for the recent investigation that we're doing right now.
That's out of order. There's a motion on the floor.
No, but I mean, you could. Go down
Okay.
to the business office.
Thank you.
They're there, right, Brian? Yeah, go look. All in favor of doing the RFP for the attorneys?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. At this point in the meeting, we come to the executive session portion. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I do not expect us to take any action when we come back. Okay, so,
Can I just ask a question in public first? When are we expecting to have Mr. White back?
that question should be answered after the executive session.
I thought there was no action.
Yeah, I don't believe there will be. At the last meeting, you asked the same question, and I told you when he requested to come back. It was February the 27th.
So
I wouldn't
why
expect to see him before then.
Why would we have more clarity after executive session then? Okay.
All in favor? Or do we-
Aye.
We did? Good. Can,
There were small clubs.
we're back on? Can I have a motion to return from executive session?
So we could actually.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to run real quick. You know, we asked for some information about field trips, and coming up, we've got the Bellato House, Penning's Orchard. Oh, okay, well, oh, some of them are passed, all right. So what do we got coming up? All right. So we've got New York Science Hall, the Space Museum Planetarium, the New York State Museum in Albany, Stage Left Children's Theater, and a trip to the Bronx Zoo, and a children's zoo coming to the school. So I just wanted to let folks know that, you know, we certainly are hearing, you know, what they're saying, and thank you to the administration for giving us that list that we requested at the last meeting. That said, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.